Hello, my name is Gaz and this is my review for Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. The best way I can describe MGS5 is by calling it an excellent disappointment, because while it is undoubtedly great in many ways, it also falls short in many others. I'll start by talking about the story. I won't give a plot summary because that would be near impossible without spoiling anything, but I'll give you my thoughts on it. The story is okay. There are two major plot lines in the game. They both do a decent job of establishing characters, motives and drama, but the pacing is terrible. It's the opposite problem previous Metal Gear games had. Where MGS used to be criticised for the story constantly interrupting the gameplay, now the gameplay gets in the way of the story somewhat. MGS5 is mission based now instead of linear, so you don't get the same kind of continuous narrative Metal Gear fans are used to. Instead, every few missions you'll get a brief cutscene and the rest of the narrative is delivered through cassette tapes and mission briefings. Now this isn't necessarily a bad option, but it doesn't work in this game. I think this is best illustrated by one particular part of the game, where you get in the car with the main villain and he just explains all his plans, motivations and past to you. It's a very confusing scene and I was totally lost on the plot after it, which didn't really happen in previous MGS games. Those kind of speeches did happen, but they never felt as jarring and weird as that because the games were more narratively focused. On top of weird pacing, the story is just generally unfinished. I said there were two major plot lines, but there's really three. Just the third one was never resolved, and that's very disappointing. Oh, and the ending is ridiculous and awful. It might have been better if the game was finished, but even then I find the general idea deeply unsatisfying. It's more convoluted than MGS2 and MGS4's endings combined. It may sound like I hate the story in this game, and I do have major issues with it, but there's also parts I really love. My favourite part of the narrative is actually a side story. If you haven't already, go to the second floor of the medical bay, and there will be a door you can go in. Even though the story is disappointing, it still brought me to tears twice, which as far as I can remember is more than any other game. So it's still got some fantastic stuff in there for sure. Now enough talk of the story because it's clearly not the focus of the game. MGS5 plays so good that it almost makes up for all its other shortcomings. It's a better stealth game than anything I've ever played, and it's a better shooter than stuff like Far Cry or Destiny. This game is mission based, and the average mission will consist of you traversing the open world, sneaking into some sort of facility with a large amount of guards, and retrieving prisoners' intel or tech, assassinating someone or sabotaging something. The missions aren't hugely varied, but they also never felt repetitive. This is largely down to the surplus of equipment and strategies you can use. There's so many different ways to approach a single situation it boggles the mind. Want to go in guns blazing, equip your grenade launcher, LMG and Uzi, bring a mech and a tank while you're at it and just obliterate everyone in your path. Or you could do the missions without killing anyone, only bring non-lethal weaponry, stay out of the guard's sight, crawl through the grass, trank people only when necessary, and hide them afterwards. Complete the mission without anybody knowing you were there. Hell, you don't even need guns for most missions, simply use your robotic arm to knock people out. It's this amount of customization that truly makes the game special. No other game has this amount of viable playstyles that I can think of. The open world is probably the most drastic change from previous Metal Gears. I have somewhat mixed feelings about it. It's great because it's a sandbox for you to play in and experiment with the mechanics, but man, it's a pain to get around. Open world was probably the best option for the game, but they could have done one specific thing to make traversing the world much more enjoyable. You enter and exit missions in a helicopter, but you can't use that helicopter to travel from one side of the map to the other. You have to sit through a loading screen and go back to a hub zone of sorts. To people who haven't played the game, this might not sound that bad, but it's really quite infuriating, and the logical alternative would have been far superior. There are two areas in the game not counting Mother Base, which I'll get to shortly. Africa and Afghanistan, and please excuse me for referring to the Africa area as just Africa and not a specific country. They're both well populated with things to see and do, but after 80 hours they'll get very stale and environments are reused a lot. Another area, even a much less substantial one, feels greatly missed, and we actually know for a fact at least two other areas were supposed to be in the game, but as I said, it's legitimately unfinished. Mother Base is Snake's base of operations and you're in charge of managing it. You earn money by doing missions and you use that money to develop weapons and equipment to use on those missions. To make Mother Base stronger, you need to extract men from the field, which you do with a Fulton, aka a big balloon. By Fultoning soldiers and resources, you grow your base and unlock access to more options on the field. Need of manpower also gives you a better incentive to be non-lethal in your approach. You can also send soldiers out on their own missions to bring in money and resources, but at risk of them dying. I enjoy this management part of the game. It's a fun little distraction. My only issue is development of equipment takes real time and it can get ridiculous. I'm not sure whether this has anything to do with microtransaction or not, but I wouldn't be surprised. As for Mother Base itself, I'm glad to say I liked having a place to go in between missions, but it is kind of lifeless with no main characters like Ocelot or Miller on it when it's not a scripted sequence. I feel if you had those two or others naturally wandering about the base, it would have been a much funner place to visit. Is funner even a word? Don't think it is. Presentation wise, the game is incredible. For my money, it's the best looking game out right now. 1080p 60fps, world class animation, incredible detail in the world. Nothing I've seen comes close to this on a visual point of view. And the soundtrack is also incredible. While the original score lacks memorability, the licensed 80s soundtrack is god tier. Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain is simultaneously the biggest disappointment I've ever had with a game, while also being one of my favourite games. I think the more you're invested in Metal Gear, the less you'll like the game. The whole experience is too complex for me to do an adequate review of, especially since this is my first review. I failed to mention huge elements of the gameplay, like the buddy system and reflex, or how masterful I think the opening is. There's so much wrong with this game, but I'd still give it a 9 out of 10, which just shows you how much I enjoyed the sheer act of playing it. That even though it's blatantly unfinished and narratively unsatisfying, I still completely love and adore it. Thanks for watching my Metal Gear review. If you liked it, press the like button. If you want to see more shit like this, but better, because I intend on getting better, subscribe please. I'd appreciate both of those things a lot. The footage you're watching is me. It was my first S rank. I think it just like a good example of gameplay. There's a lot of elements in it, like using the C4 for distraction. I don't know, it probably wasn't that good. I don't know, I thought it was cool. Because that's what Metal Gear does, it makes you feel cool. But anyway, yeah, I think that's about it. I think that's the whole outro. Thanks for watching, and good night.